Hi everyone, Dr. Bruno here. In this video, I wanted to talk a little bit about the process of presenting your work. Many of you, as a product of your undergraduate research experience here at Drexel, will have the opportunity to present your work, whether it's at the Undergraduate Research Showcase or perhaps at a regional or national conference where you can put together a poster presentation. And so you might have heard about posters in the past, but in this video, I want to walk through a little bit about what that entails. So what is the purpose of a poster presentation? As you can see here, this is one of our students, Janine Kirthivasan, and she was an undergraduate STAR Scholar student that worked with us in the Clinical Exercise Physiology Laboratory. Here she's presenting her work, and I happen to be fortunate enough to be standing alongside her at the Mid-Atlantic Regional Chapter of the American College of Sports Medicine. As you can see, she has a poster presentation that's put up there, and she's prepared to present the research to which she was engaging in over the summer for her undergraduate research experience. But the reason why we do poster presentations is it's really about providing you with an opportunity to disseminate your research findings. We all have our own interest in the research area that we're fortunate enough to be part of, but part of your responsibility as a member of the research community is to disseminate and share those research findings with other researchers who might be doing similar work, or for members of the community who could benefit from the research findings that we learn about. Another benefit of doing a poster presentation, for example, in Janine's case here at a conference, is that it provides her with opportunities to network, not only with peers who are in other programs or similar programs to the programs offered here at Drexel, but if she's thinking about graduate school, it provides her with opportunities to collaborate with other faculty members at other institutions, people who might be providing research and graduate school opportunities from other universities and other clinical facilities to which they met, and gives her an inside track on that kind of position from engaging and meeting and kind of getting to know her a little bit at this undergraduate research experience. So can't stress enough the importance of networking. More importantly, though, given that this research is being done in real time, it provides members of the research community with opportunities to learn what other people are doing, both within the region and beyond the region, and how we might be able to translate those findings into our work in real time. And lastly, for those of you that are interested in getting clinical certification, it also provides you with a continuing education opportunity. In the exercise sciences, we have certifications such as the American College of Sports Medicine Exercise Physiology certification. And so this provides us with opportunities to acquire continuing education that we can then apply those credits to our certification renewal, typically every 3 to 5 years. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about how you go about preparing the poster. And what you can see on this slide is there's a ton of text. And this is actually the first poster presentation that I ever gave as a graduate student at the University of Connecticut. And one of the things that I'll tell you is that generally speaking, the categories, the background, the purpose, the methods, etc., these are generally going to be provided as rules that the organization requires all posters to be able to have, but then the researchers and the presenters have the latitude to create the content in a way that best illustrates their science for the poster. And so I'm showing this here as an example of my first one, which was under the guidance and tutelage of Dr. Linda Pescatello at the American College of Sports Medicine Conference. I believe this was done at the ACSM annual meeting in San Francisco in 2012. And I'll show you a more recent poster that's been published and how we sort of grown and evolved over time. But some general rules when it comes to poster preparation is to keep the text short. As you can tell with this slide here, I did not keep the text short in any of the sections. And that was probably because I was relatively inexperienced. It was my first time presenting at a national conference. And I was really nervous about having somebody come up and grill me on my science and that I wouldn't know what I was talking about, right? But of course, I was silly with that thinking because my mentor, Dr. Pescatello, really made sure that I was well prepared. She made sure that she approved of everything that was written, literally every word in pronunciation on this poster. And so trust your mentors, right? But generally speaking, keep things short. Second thing is it's not about reading the material directly verbatim to the audience. It's really about showing and telling the audience and sharing your personal journey. So it should be deeply personal and have a conversational tone rather than a directive tone. And from a formatting purpose, I told you earlier in that first bullet that the organization will have their own guidelines and rules, but generally speaking, most professional organizations will use APA 7th edition style, which is why we're showing you and training you and reviewing with you how to use that style in this course. So I gave you a viewpoint of what my first poster looked like. Here's what one of our more recent posters look like, right? And so you can see clearly we removed many of the sentence-based structure and we went with more of a bullet format. So that way we are walking through the key points and logic of how we were presenting this information. You can see this slide deck has much more spacing. It has many more graphs that are color coordinated a little bit better. And so it was a really nice opportunity at a different conference venue. This was done at the Pennoni Honors College Week of Undergraduate Excellence, where Miss Emily Hughes, who is now in veterinary medicine at the University of Pennsylvania, worked as part of her undergraduate research experience with us in the lab. And she presented these findings at the Undergraduate Research Day last year. Okay, so what are the key aspects or components of the poster? As I said, generally speaking, the organization will provide you with what these categories are, but for most organizations, there's going to be some type of background or purpose. This particular poster requires an abstract. There's a methodology section which walks you through systematically who your participants were, how they were recruited, what the inclusion and exclusionary criteria of the study was, what instruments you used to measure your dependent variables of interest, and then procedurally what happened to the participants upon enrollment into the study all the way through to finishing. This will also include typically some type of statistical analysis section in this poster presentation here. This was done with the expectation that the statistical analyses would have its own section. But in other situations I've seen where the statistical analyses are actually wrapped up into the methods section, very much how a peer-reviewed publication would work. Then you'll have your results, as you can see on the right-hand side of the slide here, where you're providing the descriptive account as well as some type of table or figure of what's happening in the project, what was found from the research question of interest, and then wrapping everything together with a nice conclusion remark. This particular poster presentation that you see here also includes a reference section that was specific for the Pennoni Honors College Week of Undergraduate Excellence. But in other projects, it's not unaccustomed to have an acknowledgement section. And this is typically for anybody maybe that is not listed at the author block at the top of the slide here, who contributed to the work, made the work possible, but didn't contribute in enough ways where it would be appropriate to warrant author consideration. I'm happy to talk about some of the rules, the do's and don'ts when it comes to putting somebody as an author on a poster presentation or a peer review publication, but I think it goes beyond the scope of this presentation. And so, to wrap everything up, in order to even get a poster, it's important to understand that that is a peer review poster. So before you can get invited to go to a conference and present your research, you first need to prepare an abstract. And as we said, an abstract is typically a 200 to 250 word descriptive summary, snapshot, elevator pitch of what you did in your research project, right? So the who, what, where, when, why, what'd you find, how does it impact our clinical practice, and what does it mean for the future? And so here is an abstract of a paper that we worked on with a cooperative education student in the clinical exercise phys lab. Her name was Janvi Patel, and she did a secondary data analysis exploring the relationship between sodium intake and total body fat from the 2011 upwards of 2018 NHANES data set. It's a large-scale population-based cohort that I'm glad to talk about in class if people are interested. But as you can see here, the abstract provides everything that the poster does. It's just a lot shorter and very descriptive to the point, right? It doesn't elaborate in any way, shape, or form. But structurally, you can see it still has a purpose statement, still has a method statement, still has a results and a conclusion statement, right? But it doesn't have any of the graphs or any of the long narrative that the poster actually will have where you're presenting it at a conference. So what are some general guidelines when it comes to preparing the abstract? First and foremost, it needs to be original work. This cannot be anything that you've published or presented elsewhere. This needs to be something that has a primary research question of interest, which is articulated in the purpose statement. This needs to have some form of descriptive or inferential statistical analysis, which we'll talk about in the second phase of the course. And it needs to be peer-reviewed and often sponsored. As this case, you can see it was sponsored by Dr. Stella Volpe. Now I have the pleasure of being able to sponsor articles myself as a fellow of the college. And importantly, it's important that when you are submitting and preparing this abstract, that it may be actually published. So some professional organizations choose to publish the abstract, or you have the option to choose if you want to publish the abstract or not. And I'll tell you, it's very important to make that decision, because if it's published as a conference proceeding, then technically that work is published, right? And what that means is when you go to maybe submit it as a publication in a journal, like a peer-reviewed academic journal, you're no longer able to do so. You need to modify the question slightly so it's not the exact same work that's being published more than once. We don't want to double dip in that way. The other thing I'll just generally say when it comes to preparing the abstract is there are typically word counts and limits. And so just how with most academic journals, it ranges from as little as 150 upwards to, I've seen them as high as 300 words in an abstract. Most are typically around a 250 to 2,000 character limit, and they will hold you to that. So if you are at 2,001 characters, oftentimes the conference host will administratively reject your abstract, and you're now denying somebody the opportunity to present at a conference just because you went over for one character. And so I think this is kind of done because they get a lot of abstracts and they have to have a way that's creating a fair and an equitable environment where, say, somebody who is over the character count and somebody who could have really elaborated on their science more, if they too went over the character count, allowing you to do so but not them creates an unfair situation. So I do understand and appreciate why that's the case. And so as we wrap up this particular video, again, just wanted to sort of walk you through the process of what's possible as we learn and grow through the undergraduate research experience here in the first of 3 courses. Again, this is the Introduction to Research Methods course. The next course that you'll take is the Statistics for Health Sciences course, and then you'll wrap everything up with an experiential opportunity in a course-based undergrad research experience. But first thing you need to do is prepare the abstract. And once the abstract is prepared, you'll then submit it for consideration. A group or a committee that is designed to review the abstracts then makes a determination of how many spots do they have. Is this science worthwhile to be presented to the masses at the conference? You'll get a notification usually 2 to 4 months prior to the conference occurring. Then you work with your advisor or your mentor to develop that poster, print it, and then fly or take a train or travel to wherever that conference may be and have fun and disseminate your science to the masses. So I hope this video was helpful. If there's any questions that people have, please don't hesitate to contact me. I'm happy to discuss this in class as well and elaborate further. But we thank you very much for your time and attention. We'll see you all next time. Take care.